Panchllight by Phanishwarnath Renu. The elders of Mahato Toli bought a Petromax at this year's Ramnavami fair from the fines and penalties collected over the past 15 months. There are 8 panchayats in the village, one for each community. All the panchayats have their own daris, jazim, mats and a Petromax lamp, which the villagers call the Panchllight. After buying the Panchllight, the panchayat members decided to buy offerings for puja with the 10 rupees that were left over. For it would be most inappropriate to use a technical object with nuts and bolts without first having it suitably blessed. After all, even in the time of the British Bahadur, a sacrifice would be offered to appease the gods before work could begin on building a bridge. All the panchayat members returned home from the fair well before sunset. The orderly in front carrying the box with the Panchllight on his head, followed by the chief, the secretary and other members. Futangi Jha of the Brahman Toli stopped them at the outskirts of the village and asked, "How much did you buy this lantern for?" "Can't you see? This is Panchllight. You people from the Brahman Toli think no end of yourselves. You will call the flickering oil lamp in your own home an electric bulb, and when someone else buys a Panchllight, it looks like a lantern to you." By the time they reached their own Toli, word had spread. Everyone dropped whatever they were doing and rushed to see the Panchllight. Come on, hurry! Our Panchllight has come!" The orderly Agnu Mahato kept issuing stern warnings. "Watch out! Don't come too close! Don't touch it! See, you don't damage it!" The chief of the panchayat told his wife, "There will be a puja in the evening. Hurry up and cook my dinner, and you too take a bath and get ready." The head of the neighborhood troupe of singers told his musicians, "Look here, tonight we shall be performing in the light of the Panchllight. So all you out of tune types better watch out. One false note and you're out." Gulri Kaki, one of the leading lights of the women's choir, began to hum. Little boys and girls started a ruckus, shouting and crying for no reason save uncontrollable excitement. There was still an hour to go before sunset, but people had hardly gathered at the chief's door. The chant went up, "Panchllight, Panchllight." There was no other topic for either conversation or gossip, except the Panchllight. The chief gurgled on his hookah and said, "The shopkeeper asked for 5 koris and 5 rupees. I said, don't take me for an ignorant rustic. I have seen lots of Panchllights." At first the shopkeeper could only gape at me. Then he said, "Looks like you are a chief by caste. All right, since the chief himself has come to my shop to buy a Panchllight, I will charge only 5 koris for it." The secretary of the panchayat added, "That shopkeeper could read faces. The shop servant did not want to give us a box for the Panchllight." But I said, "Mr. Shopkeeper, how can we carry the Panchllight without its box?" The shopkeeper scolded his servant and said, "What is this? Are you trying to fool the secretary? Give him the box." The people from the Toli looked at the chief and the secretary with new respect. The orderly was telling the crowd of women it was making funny noises all the way. Sun, sun. But at the precise moment a butt reared its ugly head. 3 bottles of kerosene had been fetched from Rudal Shah's shop, but now the question was, who would light the Panchllight? No one had thought of it so far. No one had thought of it before buying the Panchllight, and no one did after it was bought. The offerings for the puja were ready. The singers were waiting with their drums, cymbals and bells, while the panchayat stood in the middle of it all. The villagers had never brought anything like this before. There is a saying in the village, "Shall we buy a cow? Yes, but who will milk it?" And so it was with this contraption of nuts and bolts. Who will light it? It was not that no one in the entire village knew how to light a Panchllight. The issue here was, after all the preparations, the ritual offerings and puja, will someone from another toli have to be brought in to help light our Panchllight? Wouldn't it be better to let it lie around? Who can bear the insults and mockery for the rest of one's life? People from the other tolis will taunt us at the slightest pretext. So, you got someone from another toli to light your Panchllight? No, no. It is a matter of our panchayat's pride. Don't even think of asking for help from other panchayats. Sadness descended on the crowd. The evening darkened. No one had lit even an oil lamp in his home. Who would want a flickering oil lamp now that the Panchllight had been bought? But it had all come to naught, and not a word from the chief, the secretary or the orderly. The panchayat was in serious danger of losing face. Someone said in a feeble voice, "These technical things throw their own tantrum." A young man arrived with the news. People from the Rajput Toli are crazy laughing at us. They are saying, hold your ears and do 5 sit-ups in front of the Panchllight and it will light upon its own. The panchayat members heard this report and said to themselves, God has given them the opportunity to laugh at us, so why wouldn't they laugh? An old man came with the grim news that Rudal Shah, the grocer, was saying that pumping the Panchllight can be a tricky business and needs the utmost care. Gulri Kaki's daughter Munri wanted to say something. The words were itching to roll off her tongue, but how could she? She knew that Godhan knew how to light a Panchllight, but she also knew that he had been ostracized by the panchayat. Munri's mother had complained to the panchayat that Godhan would look at her daughter and sing romantic songs from the movies. The panchayat members had been itching to teach Godhan a lesson. He had come from another village and started living here without ever having given so much as a paisa to the panchayat. He couldn't care less about the panchayat members. So now when the opportunity presented itself, they fined him 10 rupees and as he did not pay up, forced the villagers to ostracize him. The ban was still in place. Godhan was not allowed to talk to anyone from the toli or mingle socially with them. He could not even smoke from their hookahs. So how could he be called now? How could Munri take his name? On the other hand, there was the question of the entire community losing face. Munri dropped the suggestion cleverly in her friend Kaneli's ear. Kaneli smiled. But Godhan is debarred. Munri said, why don't you tell the chief to send for him? Godhan knows how to light a Panchllight. Kaneli announced. Who? Godhan? Does he? But the chief looked at the secretary and the secretary looked at the other panchayat members. They had all taken a unanimous decision to ostracize Godhan. The entire village was fed up with Godhan singing lewd songs and making sheep's eyes at the girls. But the chief said, why quibble over banishment from the community when the community's honor is at stake? The secretary said, true, true. The other members of the panchayat spoke in one voice. All right, let the ban be lifted from Godhan. The chief dispatched the orderly. The orderly returned and said, Godhan refuses to come. He says there is no telling with the panchayat members. Tomorrow if something goes wrong with the nuts and bolts of the contraption, they will make me pay a fine. The orderly pleaded, please get him to agree somehow or else it would be impossible to show our face in this village. Gulri Kaki spoke up, shall I go and try? She went towards Godhan's hut and managed to mollify him. A new light of hope lit up everyone's faces. Godhan began to quietly fill up the Panchllight with oil. The chief's wife shooed off the cat circling around the offerings for the puja. The lead singer of the troupe began to smoothen the hairs of his flick in anticipation of whisking it vigorously. Godhan asked, where is the spirit? How can I light it without the spirit? Everyone began to harbor serious doubts about the intelligence of the chief, the secretary, and the orderly. They had set out to do things without any idea of how they were to be done. Despair gripped the crowd once again. But Godhan was a clever young man. He would light the Panchllight without spirit. Will someone please get a little coconut oil? Munri ran to do his bidding. Godhan began to pump the Panchllight. The silken mesh of the Panchllight's torch slowly began to glow with light. Godhan began to alternately blow at the torch and turn its key. A sibilant hiss emerged from the Panchllight and its light began to brighten and flare. All traces of ill will seeped out from everyone's hearts. Godhan was a very bright young man. Soon enough the entire Toli was lit up in the Panchllight's luminous glow. The singers sang in a high clear voice. The bright flare of the Panchllight shone on the smiling faces all around. Godhan had won everyone's hearts. Munri looked longingly at him. Their eyes met and a message flashed between them. Let bygone be bygones. Forgive me. The chief fondly called out to Godhan, making him sit closely by his side. He said, You have saved our community's honor. You will be forgiven all your trespasses. You may sing as many songs from the movies as you wish. Gulri Kaki said, You must eat dinner at my house tonight. Godhan looked at Munri once again. Munri coyly lowered her eyelashes. The troop of singers finished one song and launched into loud cries of jubilation. Victory to! Long live! Every leaf and twig on every plant and bush was trembling with happiness. Thank you.